What's up, folks? It's your favorite Tarzan here, and I'm here to have dope conversations with dope people. And today's conversation is with none other than my mentor, Kelly Burke. Great to have you.
Yes, sir.
For those who don't know, Kelly Burke has been my mentor for, I like to say, 7 years. He's taught me a lot in the fitness industry and just in life in general, because he's expanded from fitness to multiple areas in education and I guess in the community. So can you give people a little bit of your backstory, Kelly Burke?
Man, I don't even know where to start. Like, you got to bring me into my backstory.
Okay. So let's start with, I guess, fitness. So how did you get into just fitness and everything with that? Because that is the beginning.
Definitely. Well, basically, in a nutshell, I was a skinny kid. And, used to get picked on as a kid for my size and, that kind of stuff. And so, I turned to the weights because I was trying to figure out, how could I, have a strong enough personality and demeanor about myself to, make people not want to, take me for granted. And then, you fall in love with the heroes of the old, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and, the wrestlers, Hulk Hogan and stuff. We talked about that. You're looking at all these muscular men and it's like, oh, ain't no way in the world they going to get picked on, So I turned 13 and asked my father for a weight set for my 13th birthday. And, I started weight training, bro. And I haven't stopped. I'm 40 now. I haven't stopped weight training longer than probably 1 year. I got into the street life. You might touch on that. But anyways, from the age of 18 to 19. And after that, man, I've been working out ever since. And so from that, in high school, like my junior year, went to the grocery store and found a Flex magazine. Ronnie was on the front of that magazine, and it was like, man, I want to be this. I didn't even know it was called like a bodybuilder. I didn't know you could make that a profession. I didn't know it was like, professional, amateur. I didn't know any of NPC, IFBB. I didn't say any of that. I just saw that man with those muscles, and he looked like me, but bigger. And I was like, came back to school the next day with the magazine, and my friend, we were taking like creatine at the time, and he was like, if I couldn't get a lift, it was so funny. I would literally leave out of the gym and go take another scoop of creatine. And he'll be like, it's a cell tech too, a muscle tech. He'd be like, man, you overloading this stuff. I'm like, nah, man, I'm trying to get big. He was like, well, how big you want to get? And I ran to my backpack and pulled it out and I said, like this. And he was like, yuck. So you fast forward, we learned that you could actually be a professional bodybuilder and did that. And so that was my door opener into fitness.
Okay. So you started out young, get into fitness, then that takes you to bodybuilding. You become IFBB Pro, which you are. And then what was that journey like?
Yeah. Well, before that, it was just working out and being really dedicated. From that, it turned to personal training. Because I didn't know that was a profession either. And so I was dating a chick back then, and she was like, you should be a personal trainer. I'm like, what's that? And she was like, you have a certification for you to get paid to teach people how to work out. The same thing that you was doing now, because I was always the guy that would be in the gym and people would walk up to me and ask me for advice or, things like that. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, well, I don't know how much it costs. I don't have any money. So, she was like, all right, well, I'm going to look into it. So she found the course at the Cooper Institute, paid for the course and paid for me to be a personal trainer. Yeah, and I was supposed to pay her back and actually, had to like work my debt off. I mean, the real way, like I'm training her and printing T-shirts. You might mention that too. So from that, I talked to Brian Dobson from Metroflex because I created my T-shirt brand, KRB Fitness and a KRB Apparel, and I just going to buy a booth to work my shirts at the show. And he was like, you ought to compete in the show too. And I'm like, I don't think I want to compete, even though I did have that inside of me that I wanted to compete. I just felt like either I didn't have it, and then it was the conviction of, God had me be viewed standing on the stage with your underwear on, you know what I mean? And, how Christians, how we view that, or the world, so I'll struggle with that. And so he convinced me to do it, and I did my first show in 2013, Ronnie Coleman Classic, and that's how I started bodybuilding. It was really because of Brian Dobson that kind of gave me the confidence, like, yeah, you're probably going to win this show. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for him, I probably would have never started competing.
And then I kind of want to touch on that because that's a big deal for, I feel like myself and a lot of people, when you get that backing from someone. Yeah. Because, like, you gave me that backing kind of early on. Like, I didn't take bodybuilding or like any of it serious, but you kept like, Josh, you could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like just having that backing and how important that is, especially for us men, because a lot of us don't have like someone to back us sometimes when we're like run with something, you know, we're not sure of it.
Yeah.
So can you tell?
Yeah, the only thing I had ever experienced that kind of like support or somebody being like, man, you good, was in like performing. Because when I was younger, I was on a step team and like people were like, man, you good. Like a dancing, you know, it's the same kind of thing. And then sports. So it was like, you know, you play football, you play basketball, people will recognize your talent before you will a lot of times, or you'll think you're better than you are and they can bring you down to reality that you're not. And so I hadn't experienced that as an adult in anything until I got into bodybuilding. And I think the way bodybuilding used to be, it's not as much like that anymore. When you would step foot in the gym, people would automatically walk up to you and be like, man, do you compete?
Yeah.
Or if you don't, you'd be like, well, you should. And, you know, it was like I had been hearing that for so many years. It just was like that was the bodybuilding community. Like, you know, even if you watch Pump and Earn, if you call yourself a bodybuilder or a fitness enthusiast and you haven't watched Pump and Earn, slap yourself in the face right now too. So, yeah, we've all watched Pump and Earn. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all the bodybuilders in this room has watched it. But, you know, watching how Arnold and those guys had that camaraderie and they pushed each other and believed in each other, I experienced that when I got in it. So meeting Brian Dobson and having him being like, man, you can do it, and you're going to be the future. Like, you know, you look great. Like, if you want to take this to the next level, you can do it because you have that kind of physique. That's what I think the original bodybuilding that I fell in love with was all about. And so when I met you, it was easy for me to do that with you because I got that from them. You know what I mean? Like so many of those older guys would walk up to you and be like, all right, let's see it. You know what I mean? And that means pose down, like, you know, pull your shorts down. You know what I mean?
I remember the first time you said that to me, I was like, wait, what?
You're like, right here? You're
Yeah,
like, right in front
right
of
now?
everybody? Yeah, like, dude, let's see it. Let's see it right there. Let's see your physique. And so, but nobody looked at you like it was weird. It was like just that world, like everybody was part of it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it is what it is. And I think that it was really important to me. So it made it easier for me to do that to the younger guys like you that was coming up.
Okay, that's dope. And then also, so you're doing a personal training, you're doing the T-shirts, and you're kind of getting into bodybuilding. That's also another spot I feel like a lot of younger people at, right? They're wanting to compete, but they're also trying to decide if they should focus on the business side of it. So I say, how do you feel, or what's your thoughts on like choosing when to compete and when to choose the business side, your personal training, or should you do them both? Should you do one at a time?
Well, I think it just depends on somebody's direction. Like I was in love with bodybuilding. So with me, it had anything to do with the money. Like I never planned on quitting my job to be a professional bodybuilder. I just wanted to bodybuild. I didn't even equate that it could be money made in it or you know, I was making this amount of money. It was just like getting on stage was like that was the woo factor to me. Like, you know, it was a huge accomplishment. So I never looked to make money until I got older in the sport and started learning that people were actually getting paid off of, we call it the business of bodybuilding. So I would tell people to decipher what they really want, because the average person, it's just like the average person won't make it to the NFL. The average person won't make it to the NBA. You know, like we're talking about top 1 to 5%ers in the world. That's the same thing with bodybuilding. The top 1 to 5% of people in the world are only going to make it to the top and actually make a substantial amount of money to take care of themselves or live the good life. So I would say if you're going to compete, just compete for the love of it. Okay. You know, and if somebody wants it to be a business, fitness is the business. That's all comes from personal branding. You know, so people need to be able to decipher the two and then not be hurt when they get up there and they might do well on stage and nothing changes. Like, dude, I had a reality change when I turned pro.
That's a big one.
The night I won, well, two things. The night I won the Phil Heath Classic to go to nationals, I made a big announcement. Me and my team was sitting back like, why aren't we getting any recognition for this? Like, you just on the big stage, like you just won, like, you know, like you one of the first guys to go into nationals with this first class, because that was the first year Class of Physique came out in the pros, and then the amateurs, like, why aren't you getting any recognition? I'm like, well, it'll be when I get on the pro stage. Let me go win USAs and win the overall and I'll get my recognition. And I went and I won the overall and I still didn't get it. I was in Flex magazine. Like just that year. Like I'm on the cover of the USAs, like, you know what I mean? That year, and like I still didn't get any.
Nothing big,
Nothing happened. Like nothing really changed except for my social media growth personally, for my personal branding was happening. And so I say that to say, don't think the stage is going to bring you all this automatic clout. Like you have to still go out there and chase it because it's a different generation. Earlier, I used to tell you all the time that, you know, this was in the 2000s. You could have a big contract and making, you know, $30 to $60 to $100,000 a year off of supplements and clothing brand, and you're not even a professional bodybuilder. Some of the greatest bodybuilders that we know never went pro. I sent you a guy the other day. If that wasn't now, these times, those guys would have been pros and at the top. But back then it was way harder, but easier to make money off of it. So I just think people need to decipher the two. If you want to be successful in fitness, do it by personal branding. And if you want to compete for the love of bodybuilding.
Okay. So after bodybuilding, Brian Dodson, how do we go from that to KRB Fitness?
Yeah, well, KRB was birthed during that time, and KRB was just clothing brand and my personal training business. I wanted to open up a gym, though. That's been my lifelong dream as a young guy. And so when I went to Metroflex, Brian wanted me to open up a Metroflex, and I really strongly considered it. But I just didn't see it in the ultimate vision. Like, I believe that KRB was the brand that I wanted to stand on its own, and I didn't want to ride his wave, although I don't believe that people that own that are doing that, honestly. I just know me. You know what I'm saying? Either I'm all in or I'm not. You know what I'm saying? And so I had that idea and dream of the KRB brand being just as big as Metroflex brand. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to compete with Brian Dobson, but I'm just saying, I looked at him more as a mentor, like, I want to do what you did, but not do what you did. You know what I mean? So exactly. I went there because originally I was like, the only thing that I could see was corporate gyms. And, you know, I'm like, okay, well, either I got to get backers, I got to go raise $1 million or bring $500,000 to the table to get people to take me serious. And then I could start a gym. When I went to Metroflex, I saw that he was buying used equipment. You know what I mean? And like, he started a whole gym franchise off of just stuff that people probably wouldn't even want, you know what I mean? Or they would have in their house. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just commercial grade. And so he showed me that it was an opportunity to really capitalize and make some money off of stuff that people might call trash, to be honest with you. It's refurbished, but it's like buying a used car or a new car. Some people only want to drive a new. Yeah. Well, Brian Dobson created the used car gym. And that's really what it was. And so I saw that when I went there and was like, I think I can do this on my own. And so KRB was birthed out of the vision of what he created. And it, just like all the other gyms, I mean, he was kind of Gold's Gym Mecca, and Metroflex are kind of the original two, you know. And so I just began to see KRB as a brand by itself. So KRB Apparel and KRB Fitness grew. And then, you know, we got the gym in 2015, and, you know, we just kept rocking.
And then we've kind of spoke on this in the past, but how do you feel about, is it a good idea for people new in fitness to start their own gyms in this point in time right now?
Yeah, good question. If it was me, I wouldn't. Okay. Because I look at so many people that are actually doing very well without a gym. And I think if you latch on to somebody that's already has a gym, kind of like our relationship, and I ain't trying to knock you from having a gym because I know that's still in the cards for you. That's what you want to do. But I tell a lot of people that are younger, you know, I've told you this before too, I don't think having a gym is that important anymore. I think before we did it for clout and to build that kind of that team and an organization around you and to take it to the next level. But gyms are so competitive right now, number one. If you're going to open up an independent gym and don't have any real money behind you and literally doing it like a absolute, you know what I'm saying? If you're not doing it to that level, I think it's almost a waste of time, or you just get a personal trainer studio where you're not competing with other gyms. You can still go to the other gyms and fish your clients because it's a personal trainer. And that's all you're building your gyms off of. You're building your success from fishing for clients. And the majority of your clients are probably going to come from online or still work in those normal gyms. So you got a gym bounce. If you create your own gym with your own brand, that's a normal gym with memberships, it's going to be hard for you to gym bounce because you're going to want to be at your place. And so that's what happened to me. And my mentor, Stephen Frazier in bodybuilding, he told me when I was opening up KRB Fitness, he said, don't make KRB a gym, make it a personal training studio. And I'm like, but I don't want a studio. He said, but you're going to be stuck. I was like, nah, I'll be fine. And for many years, I was fine. And then one day I woke up and was like, I'm stuck. I can't leave. And I wanted to leave. Like, you know what I mean? Some days I just didn't want to go. Some days I just wanted to either be at home or take a trip or go to another gym, and I didn't have that luxury. And so I would tell people that if you're the type of person that's really people friendly and love to be around people and you get tired of seeing the same thing every day, don't open up a normal gym. Open up a training studio. And you can do that in your garage at home. You can go, you know what I mean? Like, go get you a little small location, 1,000 square feet or something like that, and you can do that. But if it's your dream to have a gym, then go for it.
Okay. And so you said, like, at one point that was the it thing to get the gym.
Yeah.
Is the brand now the it thing to have, or what is the big, like, it thing? Because that was kind of like a way to generate cash. I feel like back in the day, everyone was getting the gym. So what is the...
And it still is. I mean, I still think it's definitely it could be a cash cow if you allow it to be. You know, you just have to keep the overhead really low in order so you can make a real profit. Because when you're a personal trainer, all your money is your money. You're just paying your gym rent. Exactly. Just like being a barman paying a booth rent. It changes when you own that salon. You know, but that's I would say, yes, I would say personal branding over business branding, though.
Okay.
Because if you look at a Gary Vee, he's got Gainer.
Can you go into the difference as well of personal branding?
Yeah. I was about to, but yeah. We'll break it down. So Gainer Media, right? That's Gary Vee's brand, his business brand. He's got several under that VaynerMedia umbrella. But everybody knows Gary Vee as what? Gary Vee. the personal brand. So what I'm saying is his personal voice got so strong that people wanted to know what his company actually was.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
That is true.
It's the same thing we sitting in the Mind of the Man podcast. The Mind of the Man podcast is owned by who? Aunt Mo. Aunt Mo's personal brand right now is stronger than his business brand. But when people tap into his personal brand, which is I am Aunt Mo, they find Mind of a Man podcast. And everything else he's doing now, he's putting it under the Mind of the Man podcast. But still, his personal brand is just as big. Why? Because your personal brand is what's going to get you booked. Your personal brand is what's going to get you featured. Your personal brand is what's going to get you reposted. But like for the clothing, when I started the clothing brand did very well. It did so well that people was rocking my clothes and didn't know me.
I remember you told me that.
I'd be walking in the mall and seeing people with my shirts on wouldn't say anything to me. Now, at the time, that was cool. And that's really what you want for a brand. But how does it build the brand owner if the brand owner is trying to become a brand himself too and get paid off of his image? Because right now, that's what it's all about. Everybody wants to get paid off your image. Because if you get paid off your image, you don't have to work anymore. You're the work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So back in the day, if you were a singer or a musician, you sat at home and you waited on a phone call. You waited on somebody to call you to come book you to play the drums. If you was a speaker, you waited at home for somebody to come book you for an engagement. Well, now you got social media. You just put your stuff out into the ethos, and people hear it, they believe it, they see it, and they say, hey, man, come on my podcast, or come on this, come on that. Why? Because of the personal brand. So I think you have to work them both simultaneously just as hard. Build the physical brand and build the personal brand. And if the physical brand takes off before the personal brand, you use the physical brand to build the personal brand and vice versa.
Okay. That's a good tip.
Definitely. It's what it's got to be, man. And now, in our time now, I don't think it's any other way around it because you're going to see somebody suffer or sacrifice financially and hold themselves back. Look at Grant Cardone, right? Yeah. Grant Cardone's brand is Cardone Capital. But do people know Grant Cardone more or Cardone Capital more?
I feel like they know Grant Cardone.
But when you know Grant Cardone, it makes you want to do what? Figure out what's his business, which is Cardone Capital. Robert Kiyosaki, his brand is Rich Dad Poor Dad. What's bigger, though? Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah. I feel like the Rich Dad Poor Dad might be bigger for him.
But people don't know who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you just ask people, have you heard of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? I'm like, yeah. But then if I say Robert Kiyosaki, oh, I know him. Do you know the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? Oh, no, I didn't know he wrote that book. You see what I'm saying? Because his personal brand is just as big as the business brand. All I'm saying is build them both.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So, excuse me. Everything you learn in the gym and like through those businesses, a lot of people I hear they apply to life, which I do as well. So can you tell me how you kind of like took what you learned from that part of your life? Because you're in a totally different space now.
Yeah.
So like, cause I kind of want to switch over to like the you now. So like, how did you take what that you and apply that just to life or just to outside business and everything else? Because you also have is it the daycare or the school?
Yeah, both. Yeah,
school and the daycare. Mm-hmm. So, or did it apply in any way, or did you have to kind of switch over?
I just think the self-discipline correlates to everything else you do. So if you're successful in the gym, I believe that if you took that same discipline and you applied it to other principles or ways in your life, then you could be just as disciplined. So I've always used the gym, or when I was young, it was sports. Like I tell people all the time now, I can actually admit this because I struggled at admitting this when I was young. I was a better training athlete than I was an athlete.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean? I worked harder off the field to develop my skills on the field than I actually could produce on the field or on the track. Like I would dominate everybody in practice and I would get on the track and I'm kind of mediocre. I would dominate everybody in practice in football, but I get on the field and I'm just kind of mediocre. Like I was a good player, but if you put me up against really good players, I'm just mediocre. You see what I'm saying? But off of outside of the game, I'm gonna dominate people. And I didn't need to dominate you in front of the limelight, meaning I didn't have to just dominate people in practice. I dominated them on my own because of my work ethic. So I would go hit the gym by myself. I would go run the routes by myself. I would go run the miles by myself. I would run the hundreds by myself. Like I did that when nobody was looking and when nobody was around because it was all about me versus me. And I figured they would correlate over to the field. And even if it did or didn't, it didn't really matter because I enjoyed pushing myself outside of the game. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's what happened in business for me or everything else because I was so easy to be able to self-discipline myself to train hard when nobody was looking. I could do the same thing in my business. And so when I was starting my business, this guy named Austin that owned Ultimate Sport Nutrition, he said, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to run a gym, do me a favor. I said, what? He said, be there every day. I'm like, why would you tell me that? He said, because I know you like to move around. I know you're the type of person that likes to be in the limelight. You want to go talk to different people. You want to gym hop. And I believe that when you started a business, you need to give it your all. Treat it like that's your woman. Be there every single day, bro. That's what's going to make your business successful. And so that was a challenge to me. Now, hindsight, I think things have shifted. I think that's good advice and bad advice. I think it's good advice because you need to learn your business and understand the ins and outs of it and really get in there and get into the grind. But once it becomes successful, why do you need to be there every day? You see what I'm saying? So it's just like fitness. You build the base for fitness and you kill yourself in order to get your body to a certain level. But I'm 40 now. I don't kill myself in the gym anymore. I would just work out hard. You see what I'm saying? But in development stages, like Anna tell you trained with us back then. We was murdering people, bro, on purpose. We wanted you to throw up. We wanted you to die. We didn't want you to come back. Yeah, you didn't come back either. But that's what we were doing to people on purpose because we were breaking you. We were showing you it's something else in you. Me at this age now, I don't want to do that. But I do want to train pretty hard. I do want to look good and then stay in shape. So it's like you do the work outside that you learn in the gym and then you apply that to business. So me and you holding a conversation last night and you're like, I got a lot of free time. I'm like, yeah, but for a guy like me, I want that. Yeah. And you in the grind. I'm not in the grind like that. I'm grinding mentally. When I sit back, I'm just talking money. My conversation is wealth talk. My conversation is how I'm going to build wealth. I want to look like this every day. I want to put the jacket on with the nice shoes every day.
It's real spiffy.
Yeah, well, I can't be in the grind looking real spiffy like this unless I'm mentally grinding. But when I was building, I was physically grinding. So my point is, you people that are really fit and really disciplined, you can take that and put that into your business, and it just correlates. It just moves right over. It's like for me, it's like Christianity and the faith. Like I took the faith, and the same way I was disciplined in walking with God, I took that and then I put that into working out. You see what I'm saying? Because scriptures, you will see a lot of bodybuilders use scriptures. They correlate hand in hand because the Bible is all about discipline. So that you take that same concept and you move that into working out. Well, then you correlate the two, you mix them. So then let's add another component, business. You take that third component, it's like Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? They all go one in one. So working out, staying in shape, getting in grind mode, understanding self-discipline, and business. You put them all three together, they all work together and go hand in hand. And so what you do in the gym, you do it outside of the gym. Same way you handle your business, same way you handle your money, the same way you handle everything in life. So, yeah, I think they all work together.
And I'm glad you kind of touched on discipline because I feel like discipline is a big thing in self-mastery. And that is
self-mastery. Come on.
Yes, sir. That's your class and what you've been teaching on right now.
Yeah.
Like I say, you've moved from the gym and that to being a speaker and teaching. And can you explain what self-mastery is? What does it mean to you? Yeah. And why is it so important?
Yeah. Well, on the journey of all the stuff that we're talking about, I began to dig more into self-awareness. And when you listen to a lot of public speakers, they always talk about looking inner, and that's biblical principles too. Like the Bible really is specifically talking about how you handle your character. And so self-mastery is just to look and work on you from the inside out. And so it's like you're working on yourself so much to the point that somebody doesn't have to tell you who you are because you already know. So when you tell me, hey, man, did you know that you was like this? Or, hey, Kelly, you something like, yeah, I already knew that. Why? Because I'm looking inside of me every day. And you don't have to identify something that's in me, with whether it be a weak characteristic or a strong characteristic, because I'm so focused on me. And not in a selfish way, but in a selfish way. You see what I'm saying? Not like I'm being selfish to people, but I'm being selfish with myself to learn myself and develop myself in such a way that I want my character to be just as strong as my finances. You see what I'm saying? And I want my character to be just as strong as my fitness. And so self-mastery is taking all the avenues in your life, combining them and saying, I'm going to be the best version of me, regardless of whatever else is happening around me. Because if I become the best version of me, it shifts the atmosphere and people and things around me. People want places to change. People want people to change. People want their environment to change. People want their wealth to change, but they have not changed them. All those things change if you change, right? I used to get pulled over a lot. Right, you talked about moving to Arlington and being pulled over a lot. Well, when I was in Fort Worth, I'd get pulled over a few times a month. Half those times I go to jail because I had tickets and everything else, right? We talked about it. Riding around with the Grove Grill. I had the Cadillac with the rims on it, the thump in the back. That was me. I was that guy, hat cocked to the side, smoking on something, pull up next to the police, and I'm trying to fix it up and clean it up. And I'm like, don't go get me. And then he gets me, right? Yeah. And I'd be mad, right? So I was the angry black man. Why you got to mess with me? Why you don't mess with this white guy right there? We always picking on me. It's because I'm black, ain't it? Yeah, well, it's because I'm black in the Cadillac. It's shined up with the rims on it, with the grill, with the hat cock, and the blunt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like all these things. So what happened? Let me move to Arlington and get away from this, right? So let me move away from the games that I'm playing. The game, we call it the game. Let me move away from the game that I'm playing, move out to a different environment, and then change myself. And so I slowly started changing the way I dress. Let me pull the pants up. Let me start being more fitted. Diesels was out then. Kenneth Cole. Let me go start shopping at these places. Oh, Express, didn't know it existed. Oh, American Eagle. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm shopping at these stores now. I'm around white America now. Got rid of the Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
Bought a truck. Dude, didn't get pulled over one time in that truck. Right? Now I'm clean cut. Right? Yeah. Exactly. So instead of rocking the little baby fro with the curls, let me just clean it up. I'm going to rock a taper fade now. And so I changed my environment, but I was changing me. I changed. And when I was thinking, oh, I'll change the environment, I moved to Arlington. No. Kelly Burke changed. He cleaned his character up, which now I wasn't posing a threat to the officers. And the same thing in society. I don't want to pose a threat, but I am a threat. Right?
Yeah.
Friend called me the other day. He said, man, it's funny. One of my other friends just got out of prison. And so he called me and I talked to him. And he called me because I talked to him. I was like, yeah, such and such just got out of prison, man. He's like, yeah, I know that's why I called you. We was just talking about the guys that was kind of like the leaders of our little clique back then. And he was like, man, you know what, though? Something about you that people don't know. You really had a short fuse, but you didn't look like it. He said you were so funny and like charismatic that people would take you for granted until they push you and you would go from 0 to 60. He said, now me on the other hand, people never tested me because I always look like I'm not the guy to be tested, right? Yeah. And so I had to learn how to control my temper and anger by looking on the inside of me. And I did used to have a short fuse, punching holes in the wall, kicking doors. Like that was me. I would just I would blow up really quick. You wouldn't see that now, right? Yeah. But I had to change myself in order to develop myself in such a way that I can be friend. In order to have a lot of friends, you got to present yourself friendly, right? In order to be loved amongst men, you got to love men. In order to be revered among people and highly respected, you have to learn how to respect people. And so these are the characteristics and traits that all go into self-mastery. And when I start mastering these things, I felt like I mastered the environment around me and things shifted. I didn't have to change my environment. I changed, which automatically shifted the environment, which allowed me to walk into different rooms, different places, and elevate so quickly in life.
So is that the first step? Because you mentioned change a lot. So is the first step to change the inside and then the environment, or would you say work on both kind of simultaneously, changing who you are on the inside and changing the outside community that you're in?
Yeah, I think they do work hand in hand, but if you're not working on yourself harder than you're working on the environment, when you get into the new environment, if you're still the same, you're going to mess up that environment. You only get one time with people. They only give you one impression. Your first impression is how they remember you. They might deal with you after that, but they're not going to forget how you acted. If you meet a leader or somebody you admire or a celebrity, and the first conversation they give you, they're a jerk or a douchebag, you're not going to forget it. You're not going to let it down. I might have a different impression of that person, but you're going to be like, I really don't fool with them. Why? Because they did this, they said that, they did this. You don't get another chance. Yeah. So if you work on you in such a way, when you go into the room, you're already fixed. It doesn't really matter about the situation that you're in. Or you might not change anything in your life besides you. Your environment could stay the same, but because you change, it moves things out of your way. So you could live in the hood and live in a low-income neighborhood, but you changed. The gunfire might skip your house just because they know who you are. Yeah. Like, you're not a threat anymore. Like, we're not worried about him, but the dude that's living next door, we're going to get him because we know that he's still doing the same thing he used to do. But this guy over here, he's positive now. Like, he's on a different page. And that's what I believe that it's about. It's about just changing you. Like, people are going to view you based on how you view yourself and how you carry yourself. That's the personal character. So I think it's more important to change you first and then change your environment. And, for example, I didn't want to go to a corporate gym until I looked a certain way. It's pretty stupid. And now I look back on it, like, I was like, that was pretty dumb. But I felt like to myself, like, I don't want to go in there and be embarrassed. So I had to change me before I got into the environment. So, yeah, I think changing you is way more important than changing the environment.
That's true. That's true. All right, y'all. So this has been a great, dope conversation with Kelly Burke here. Before we close out, I just want to say one thing or ask one thing. What is any advice, just one piece of advice that I feel you got that really helped you out throughout your life or career? What would you say?
That's good. I was struggling with, I was in seminary and I was struggling. We'll be transparent. I was struggling with women preachers. As I'm reading the Bible, I couldn't find that anywhere. Well, two things. I asked the same guy two things because he was my mentor in the Bible. I mean, in seminary. I was struggling with where does you find women preachers in church because I didn't see it in there. And so I'm looking at the Bible and I'm like, man, where is this at? And the second thing was women. Yeah. Like, man, how do you? And it's crazy because I was originally dating his daughter. That's how I met him. through his daughter, and we didn't work, right? But he became my mentor after that. So I had these two questions. Where do you find women in the Bible that are preachers and leading men? And how do I deal with this struggle with women?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? How do I walk the walk, talk the talk?
That's a big one.
Sound like Chris Rock, rock the walk. He killed Will Smith on that new deal too, right?
Yeah,
Just come back.
did.
It was pretty funny. But anyway,
that was good. That was
so
good.
number one, he said God doesn't want to know. God doesn't care about those things that you're talking about. God wants to know when you get there, whether you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So it's not your job to change the church, but in real terms, it's not your job to change people. It's your job to change you. Yeah. Right. And if you're trying to solve something, are you going to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Number two, he said, when I asked him about the woman thing, he said, God wants you to deal with it. And I'm like, yeah, but how? He said, yeah, deal with it. I'm like, but like, how do you deal with it? Give me some info. He said, deal with it. And when he said it the third time, it was like a light bulb that went off and was like, oh, deal with it. As a man, life is going to throw curveballs and difficulties, and you're going to run into stumbling blocks and brick walls. And us as men have to learn how to deal with it. Meaning whatever it is that comes your way, however difficult it is, whatever problem that you have to learn how to deal with it. Like, you can go to counseling, you can look for other people, you can listen to videos like this and get inspired. But at the end of the day, when you lay down at night, you have to deal with it. And I believe that that's what life is all about. Finding issues and problems that arise in our own lives and deal with them. How do you become successful? Solving a problem. Solve a problem. How do you make a whole bunch of money? Solve a big problem. How do you make a whole bunch of more money? Solve a really, really big problem, right? And so the most important problem that you're ever going to solve is the problem with you. So anything that you face in life, deal with it.
Deal with it, man. And that's a good way to close.
That's it.
Right there. Well, I appreciate you coming out, Kelly.
My man.
Yes, sir. This has been a
enjoyed it,
dope
brother.
conversation, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.